Grudges keep you replaying your hurt feelings and fueling the anger that wants the other person to feel pain. In this episode, we're going to be talking about the uncomfortable conversation of forgiveness, and we'll be sharing the high price of holding a grudge and how it affects you emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually. Hey, we're Britt and Chris Carmichael, and you're listening to the Elevated Life Podcast. Throughout the 13 years we've been together, we've never ceased in our endless quest to better ourselves.
We've studied top experts, philosophers, and gurus. After years of personal self-experimentation, we found the tools for shifting your beliefs, moving through fears, and developing a positive mindset.
If you're ready for a breakthrough, then you're in the right place, because we're here to empower you to take control of your life with simple mindset shifts that create radical transformation.
We'll be diving into topics like personal growth, health, philosophy, spirituality, relationships, success, and mindfulness.
So create some space for yourself and get comfy. It's time to become the badass you were born to be. So this month in the Elevated Life Club, we are talking all about forgiveness, and the conversation is clear. There are so many people that are still holding on to pain from the past or even pain from their present relationship because they're not communicating. It's a very common problem that we see all too often. So we thought we need to bring this conversation to the podcast and share our tips on, what the fuck this is doing to your life. Honestly, this is like, I'm getting all fired up about like people holding on to resentment and grudges and anger because I'm feeling the energy. I'm feeling their anger. It's like, we got to stop doing that. We've got to set ourselves free. And that's ultimately what forgiveness does, is doesn't let them off the hook. It lets us feel free of the pain that we carry from the past, and we can move forward with the lesson. I feel like, boom, mic drop, let's go. No, let's dive in.
A lot of times the problem is that when we hold on to a grudge, what we're really doing is holding on to anger. We're holding on to the pain that we feel. We're holding on to the way we feel like that was unjust, like they did something that they should not have done to us. And now we're playing Mr. Justice and saying, now let's make them pay for it. Let's get revenge now. Let's hurt them in some way so they can feel a little bit of the pain that we've been feeling. And the problem is that doesn't work. I mean, if that worked, we would have already been teaching it on here. Like, we would say get as mad as possible and just go bananas. But what ends up happening is that when you're angry, your mind continuously replays the event over and over and over again, because that's what anger does. Anger puts you in a specific thought loop. And so you replay the thought loop to feed the anger again. And when you think about it again, that's why you get triggered. That's the anger refeeding itself. Every time you get triggered, the anger goes, that was good. Now I got a little meal. I can keep going for a little while. Oh, now, and it's time to think about it again. Okay, let's have another meal. Give me that fuel. And we do it all the times because we want to put ourselves in a position of power. When someone hurts us, the easiest thing for us to do is be a victim, to make everyone around us, by verbalizing it to them, telling the story, to make them feel sorry for us, and to tell us how bad that other person is. I can't believe they did that to you. I can't believe that. And so it reinforces the story, which refeeds the anger.
So we're going to share 3 different ways that holding these grudges show up in your life, and anger is one of them.
Yeah, it's I think the most devastating. The biggest reason why anger is so devastating is because it pulls you out of the present moment. It takes you into your imagination. It takes you into the past. It takes you reliving something over and over again. And every time you go back into the past, you're missing out on all of the miracles that are happening in the present moment. I hear so many people, they want to manifest things. They want miracles in their lives. They're looking for something to change. They're looking for something to happen. You won't notice any of those things if you're living in your head. So when you have a lot of anxious thoughts, a lot of worried thoughts, a lot of angry thoughts, what ends up happening is that you've started to construct reality out of your mind. You're not actually looking at what's happening. You're projecting out into the future, or you're going back into the past, and you're creating hallucinations, and they make you feel a certain way. And every time you do that, you miss the connections, you miss the love, you miss the joy, you miss the gratitude, you miss everything that's happening right now if you just take a moment to take a few deep breaths and just relax into it.
I mean, they say the definition of a miracle is a shift in perception. It's not like rainbow shooting from the sky kind of miracle. It's the way that we approach and look at things. And so ultimately, if we're looking through the lens of anger, then we're going to end up only seeing things that reflect that truth to continue to prove ourselves right. See, look, I was the victim. See, this isn't fair. Look how it's showing up again in my life.
And the other thing that anger does, which is our second point, is that it leads to guilt. What ends up happening is someone's done something to us, and then we feel very mad about it, but then it's 6 months later or a year later, and we're still feeling the same way. We're still replaying the same story. We're still hearing or we're thinking about them in our mind. It's bringing up those same kinds of emotions. We're getting triggered. And so now we have that guilt thing. So after we've watched the story in our mind, what we end up doing is thinking to ourselves, I can't believe that I still think about that. I can't believe this person still has power over me. I can't believe I'm still mad about that. This happened forever ago. And so we start to feel guilty. We start to internalize that anger, because what's ended up happening is we couldn't punish them, but the anger still has to get dispelled in some way. So instead, what we do is we turn inside and begin to punish ourselves.
And that can create a whole cycle of guilt, because then you're like beating yourself up for beating yourself up because someone else beat you up. It's like a really fucked up cycle.
Yeah, and what ends up really happening is that once you have enough guilt feelings about something, it starts to bleed out into the rest of your life. So you feel guilty because you didn't take this opportunity, because you missed your workout, because you wore the wrong thing, because you said the wrong thing, because you weren't the right person, because you were late, and now you're apologizing for all of your life. And all of this started simply because you were unable to forgive somebody who did something to you. Remember, like Britt said it earlier, it's that the forgiveness is never for them. It's so important. We think that the forgiveness, we're going to let it go. We're going to forget about it. And they're not going to get the kind of justice that they need. And that's not what this is. Forgiveness is always for us. It's for our peace. It's so that we don't have to feel that way anymore. We don't have to feel that kind of guilt. We don't have to feel that kind of anger toward them. It doesn't mean we don't still understand it the same way. It doesn't mean that we completely say, you know what, it's over. That's fine. You have to come to a point where you recognize that you need this, that this is something that is going to be one of those that sets you free. Because when you don't feel anger anymore, you start to feel more love. And you're not feeling guilty about things. You start to have better self-esteem. And that compounds. That leaks out into your business life. That goes into your relationship life. Because you're not apologizing for yourself. Much more time you feel more hopeful. You feel like life is meaningful. You feel like things matter. You feel like you can succeed and do things. But if you're always holding on to anger, you've got high blood pressure, you increase your risk of heart disease, you start to get depressed. It just bleeds out. Anger is one of those things. What is it a Buddha quote? I think it's Buddha that says, being angry at somebody is like you drinking the poison.
The poison.
Yeah, it's you drinking the poison.
And expecting them to die.
Yeah, it is that.
And I feel like, it's interesting because I'm hearing you talk and all I'm visualizing is like, if you're angry and you aren't living, you don't have forgiveness, it's like you're living in the past. Life has moved on without you, but yet you're still repeating something. Something bad has happened to you, but you keep making it happen every single day by reliving that and repeating it and not releasing it. And so, it shows up like anger, then guilt. And then the last one is shame. And shame usually comes up because how could I have let this happen to me? Or how could I, maybe it was your fault in the situation. Like maybe the grudge is even against yourself, like something that you did or didn't do in a situation.
I think oftentimes guilt and shame go hand in hand, and it does always end up becoming, when we can't punish the person, it's back to the internal pain. It's back to us hurting ourselves so that the anger can get moved, so that the emotion can go somewhere, so that someone can feel something about this. Because anytime deep emotion, we have to allow it to release. We have to get it out some way. That's why you've heard on here, if you've been listening for a long time, that we use the tennis racket method to get anger out. You have to exercise. You have to be able to move that anger around and be able to release it. And that forgiveness is complete. When it's done, when you no longer have that person do that triggering for you anymore. You can think about the event and know that it was working out for your best good, because this is the secret to everything. This is the secret to this. And that is so many of the things that we have had happen in our lives where we would need to forgive someone for, where they're going to do something to us that like cheat on us, they're going to fire us, they're going to say mean, hurtful things. Sometimes we asked for that, maybe unconsciously, like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be in this relationship anymore. And then our partner goes and cheats on us. That happens. We see it happen all the time. The other thing that happens is we need certain situations to happen to evolve. We need to be in a chaos period to learn our strengths. You can't learn your strengths just sitting in the bedroom, sucking your thumb. Yeah, it's never going to happen that way. So a lot of times we're asking for, oh, I want to level up. I want to reach that next level of evolution for me. I want to go higher. I want to be more knowledgeable. I want to, all these things. I want to evolve. And we end up getting to a space where what we encourage into our life are challenges, difficult ones that are going to really put us to the test. Can we still hold our faith? Can we still hold our confidence? Are we going to be courageous? Are we brave? Are we bold? Will we back down? We're constantly given these challenges. And what's great is once you start forgiving and once you start defeating these challenges, when they come up the next time, it's so much easier to deal with them because you've done it. You're like, oh man, I've forgiven this thing. And really what's interesting about all this is the person that we always have to forgive the most, the person that we hold the biggest grudge, the person who's the meanest to us, the person who does all the stuff to us that really screws us up, is us. It's always us. And so when you think about who do you hold a grudge for? Also look at yourself too. Where can you be a little kinder? Where can you just let it go? And again, it's not for the other person. It's for you. How can you let go in such a way so that you can start to evolve? So you can open yourself up to all those feelings that you want to have. That anger, guilt, shame cycle is horrible to feel. I mean, it's awful. And our partners feel it. And the people who get services from us through work feel it. Everybody feels it around you. You become this dark cloud that it's hard to be around. And so open yourself up. Just let your heart come out a little bit and say, can I be a little soft on this? Can I be a little more kind? Can I forgive a little bit? Did I need this to happen or else I really wouldn't have gotten to where I want to be? Because if I hadn't gotten fired from some places and I hadn't broken up with some places and people hadn't cheated on me, I will tell you what, I would not be right here today. And I'm loving it. I'm loving where I'm at in my life. I needed all those things to happen. Absolutely. And I forgive all of those people, including myself, for being upset about it ever. Because it needed to be. Not only do I forgive them, but I wish them the best. I hope that their life is successful as possible. I hope they're knocking it out of the park right now.
And real talk, for the most part, the people that are holding the grudge against the way that things unfolded that they subconsciously asked for, like, I want out of this unhealthy marriage, and then the partner cheats on them and gives them that opportunity, they would have never left. They would have never left the shitty job. They would have never left that toxic relationship until something that drastic or hardcore comes in and is like, bam, let me punch you in the face so you'll finally get out. You'll finally let go. You'll finally quit. And then we want to get mad about how it went down. Or feel shameful. Or, I mean, all of the whole cycle comes up.
Yeah, it's so important to spend time. Spend time going on walks, spend time alone, to get away from your phone and start listening to what you're saying to yourself. Listen to what you're asking for. Listen to what your partner's asking for, your kids, and then watch how it manifests in your life. Because if a lot of what you're asking for comes out from anger or from hatred or from any kind of like negative emotion like that, a depressed emotion, just not feeling good about yourself or your work, notice how that's going to manifest. You're not going to bring clients in like that.
It also, I'm thinking the sex life. The
women
that I coach that hold grudges have a horrible sex life.
Well, I'll tell you too, there are very few couples I know that have excellent sex lives that are also open with each other and honest, that, they don't struggle. It's like when people are really intimate and can be open and talk and do those, the level of companionship and the level of love that they feel is incredible. So if you're one of those person that withholds sex because of a grudge, I mean, you can have an open conversation with your partner. You need to tell them what's going down because it kills the relationship. You're
denying your own pleasure. Dumb.
That's bad. Don't be that person. Have a conversation, even if it's a hard one. It's worth it. Don't go forever without feeling intimate and feeling connected. I mean, that's something that really brought you guys together in the first spot. So it's important to continuously build onto that. Like you should be getting more intimate. You should be discovering more about each other and more wonderful things. Like that's how relationships naturally evolve if they're going to be great relationships. And all that, it takes time. All that takes effort. Like, not just time as far as like years go by, but I mean, you putting time into the relationship and having those conversations and being open about it and saying like, hey, this is how I feel. Let's talk about it. Let's have a conversation. That way we can get on the same page and feel good.
You know where we're going to have those conversations?
Tell me.
At the Evolved Couples Retreat. I love that you also just said that's how you evolve. I mean, that's exactly what we'll be teaching at the Couples Retreat happening in November, is these techniques, these conversations, the way that you can just, okay, there's resentment, there's anger, there's whatever, let's address it. Let's bring it up and deal with it rather than letting it deal with us.
In a constructive way.
Yeah.
Let's do it so that everyone feels heard, everyone feels understood, and you feel like there's a positive path moving forward so that we get everything out on the table. People aren't bamboozled by things years later being like, I've been mad for 10 years at you. You're like, you didn't even tell me. I didn't even know. I didn't know you had a resentment, and be able to do the forgiveness. One of the big things we're doing at the retreat that's going to be phenomenal is forgiving so much of what's happened in our past. We're going to go through some really powerful subconscious exercises so that we can forgive, so that we can get rid of all of that residual stuff. I do not want to carry an old relationship into a current one. That's just a recipe for disaster.
Hey, and if you're single and you know you need this forgiveness work so that you can open up to love, then you can always check out the Elevated Life Club, the masterclass that just went down. I mean, it was heart shattering and rebuilding all of this. I mean, it was just...
People cried.
Ooh, it was powerful.
Deep. It was deep.
Absolutely powerful. And that's the thing. So many of us have been through painful experiences in the past to teach us these important lessons. And we either take it as wisdom or we carry that pain. And that's a heavy price to pay.
Yeah, and let me tell you that once you have the lesson, once you've learned it, you don't need to hold on to the rest of it anymore. You've already gotten every single part that you need. It's just like when you get a banana and you want the banana inside the pill. You don't take the pill apart and then go, well, I'll just keep the pill forever. You got the banana out. You got the lesson out. You don't need the other part of it anymore. So if you've been holding on to it forever, thinking it was going to help you at some part, that you were going to get, you're going to go to an antique roadshow and they're going to give you money for it, that's never going to happen. So you can just go ahead and begin to let it go. If you learn the lesson, you don't need the pain anymore. There it is.
Ooh, but if you feel the pain, then you haven't learned the lesson.
True.
Dang. So I want you to take a moment and like do a little mental, emotional inventory and kind of scan. Is there anywhere that I've been holding a grudge? Whether that's towards a friend, a partner, someone in business, a family member. Take a moment to think about that and like ask yourself, why am I still holding on to this? What is a lesson that was, that could be learned here? What did this teach me? How did I grow? Where did I find new boundaries? Like start to begin searching for that silver lining of maybe this happened for a reason. And if you can start to ask that question, like what good came out of this, then that's starting to lighten the lesson, the load of the lesson.
Yeah, and you can really dramatically improve your life by starting to forgive. It can be tough. It can be tough to let go because I know when we really care about somebody, they can hurt us very deeply, especially ourselves. We know exactly what to say.
We know the Achilles heel.
We know exactly where to look, what to grab, we know all of our own weaknesses. And so to live life a little less serious, to start to enjoy it more, to start to have more fun, this is one of the steps that you have to take. If you want to be in a successful relationship, this is a step that you have to take with all of your old relationships. This is the step that you take with your parents, with your teachers, with your everybody, with your guides, with everything. This is the biggest gift that we can give, not only to forgive other people, but to look internally and to begin to love ourselves. Because once you forgive, you open yourself up automatically to love. It is amazing how much love typically comes rushing in once you let go of all those other emotions, and you start to feel different. And I'll tell you that kind of feeling is one of the most transformational that you'll have, because you start to realize that a lot of the things that have been holding you back are things that are inside your own head. It's stories that you're telling yourself. It's things that you're replaying. It's not allowing you to go on to anything new, to grab onto new habits, to grab onto new ideas or opportunities. And so make sure that you're really focused on forgive. And also, last thing is that sometimes you have to repeat the forgiveness process. This isn't something that you just do one time and then everyone's forgiven and everything's done and everyone lives in the castle, with the princess. It's not that. It's something that you have to repeat and do, because sometimes things come up. Sometimes your brain reconfigures things and now you're suddenly upset about something that didn't really matter before, but now it does. And so you have to repeat this process, and that's okay to do. Allow yourself that grace and space so that you can make it happen.
I was crying in the gym this morning, like so random, but it seems so relevant, because I was forgiving my dad for a lot of the disconnect that we had in our physical life and our relationship, because he was so angry that he couldn't even make a deep and emotional connection. And I was forgiving him for that, because I always wanted to be connected. I wanted to love him and know more about him and understand him. But with all of that anger and unforgiveness and resentment built up around the walls around his heart, I mean, he blocked me out. And I was like, feeling the feels, letting it go, and just saying, I understand that you were hurt and that you just didn't have the tools to process. And so
that's deep right there, to realize that the person who hurt you was probably hurt too and didn't have the tools to process. That's very powerful.
So Dad should have just been an Elevated Life member.
Join us on, bud. Come on, dude.
Oh man, yeah, it was some shit. I'm like doing bicep curls and fucking crying, but our emotions live in our tissue. Our issues are in our tissues. And so I think, not only seeing a picture of him from our last vacation 1 year ago today, like just all the things like brought it up, but ultimately it was forgiveness that was happening. So when you came over and you're like, well, you're ugly crying, I'm like, I'm actually good. Like, I know this looks bad and I look a hot mess right now, but this is a good cry.
I know. I was trying to make sure you're not like physically hurt. I'm like, did she drop it on her foot or something? Like, was she in some physical pain? Yeah. It's just, it's so powerful to forgive, and it really does change your outlook on life. And because what you realize is that you've hurt a lot of people too. A lot of people are mad at you right now that you've hurt. You need that forgiveness too. So sometimes you're like, man, I have done some things. Maybe I do need a little forgiveness, and maybe that means I need to forgive a few people so I can open up the space for other people to do the same for me. That would be great.
Ooh, that's some next level. Hey, I forgive you.
I forgive you.
Great. High five. Boom. All right. Well, we are free and forgiven. Jesus has risen. All the things. Now, in all seriousness, we understand how painful your traumatic experience is. I'm getting all emotional. We understand that you've been through trauma, that you've experienced pain, and we're not here to take that away from you, but we are here to lighten the load. And I hope that this conversation just is a reminder to let love in, to let go of the pain, and to learn the lesson, because it wasn't meant to make you feel less than. It was meant to teach you even deeper levels of love. All right. Until next time, we'll see you guys soon. Peace. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Elevated Life Podcast. Want more? Join us at theelevatedlifeclub.com for mindset upgrades, lifestyle hacks, and spiritual tools to elevate your soul.
Each month features a new masterclass, meditation, yoga practice, and more to help you transform your life one step at a time.
Come join the 7 or Above Club.